to hear, Gene, and for your presentation.
Sure. Well, thank you very much. All right, let me talk to you a little bit about balance. Incidentally speaking, playing golf, an old golf store, which I'll make my own, I slice the ball off way into the rough, and so my caddy goes with me, and I'm in the rough and far from the green, and I say, well, what club should I use from here? And he said, I don't know, I've never been here before. Okay, let me talk to you, not make a speech, let me just talk with you about balance. First of all, I think that if you're going to think about balance in your life, you have to be realistic about what kind of balance you can achieve. Now, if you think of balance as having a very structured career where you spend the same number of hours at work every day, the same number of hours with your family, your friends every day, same number of hours every day or week, recreation, pleasure. If you think that that's what you want with balance, I have to say that that may be totally unrealistic if you're in real estate management. That is available only for very few people. I was trying to think, what kinds of people have that kind of balance? I thought, well, really rich people who can cruise half the year on an ocean liner. You know, they get up and everything is regulated. You can have the same number of hours, right? And then I thought, well, there's another big category of people that can count on the same number of hours every day. People in prison. I mean, the number of hours they can spend with their friends and relatives is limited, and how far they can go for recreation is limited, but they got a predictable, balanced life, right? And I don't think that's what we aspire to or is possible. I think for you, for me, the balance that we can achieve is, let me use an analogy. Walking on a high wire. If you've been to the circus, you've seen the high wire walkers. They tilt to the left, they tilt to the right, and if you can think of tilting to the left maybe as when you're spending a lot of time at work and not a lot of time with family. And then you're tilting back, you're compensating. In other words, there are certain parts of your life when you're going to have to be working 70-hour weeks. Or you wake up in the middle of the night because plumbing has burst, right? Or there's a power failure, or a generator didn't work, right? Or condenser isn't working properly. I hope I have some analogies some of you can identify with. And you know, you may have promised that you were going to do certain things with your family, but you can't. Farmers have the same kind of experience. When the hay is ready to harvest, you've got to get it in before the rain comes. So you might work a 70 or an 80-hour week. So understand that balance, the best kind of balance that you can achieve is compensation. In other words, you may spend a lot of time here during one part of your life, and you'll spend less here. In fact, some people adopt that as a philosophy. One of my interviews was Stanley Marcus, as in Neiman Marcus. And he said, I am miserly with my time in some parts of my life so that I can be profligate with it in others. Or one that I like to use is, since I've written a book on time management, and by the way, that's a big burden to bear once you've written one, because if you're ever late to anything, they say you wrote a book on what? But I pay attention to the clock, total attention to the clock in some parts of my life, so that I can pay no attention at all to the clock in other parts of my life. like when I'm watching a sunset or listening to a symphony or spending time with my grandson. So that's the kind of balance that I'm going to talk a little bit about today. There's a second part of balance, and I think it's critical. You need to feel successful. We all have the need to feel successful. It's terribly important. That was brought home to me when I had a long conversation with a hospice nurse a few years ago. And when she told me what she did, she said, I don't know. I said, I don't know how you do it. Being with people the last few days or weeks of their life. She said, oh, but you don't know the joys and the pleasure that I have had being with them those last few days. And then she went on to describe what she did. She said, I'll help them try to tie together some loose ends. Like maybe they haven't spoken to a brother or sister in 10 or 15 years, and I'll urge them to pick up the phone, say I'm sorry. And then she said something. She said, and I also try to help them feel successful, because she said, what I have discovered is most people don't feel successful. And so I will say to them, what would you have to do to feel successful, and if you did it, would you know it? And so I think you have to ask yourself, what would you have to do to feel successful? And would you know it if it happened? Because if we're going to have balance, we need to feel good about ourselves. Part of feeling good about yourself is who are your close friends, your associates. I have a philosophy of life that I learned from Ken Futch, a mutual friend. He said, I try to spend time with people who will celebrate me, not just tolerate me. Now that's consistent with what we know from social science. There was a man, early social scientist by the name of Charles Harton Cooley, term of the last century, and he developed a theory called the looking glass self. And he said we get a feeling of who we are and how successful we are by what we think we read in another person's eyes when they interact with us. The looking glass. In other words, their eyes are the looking glass. And if we read in their eyes, I think you're pretty stupid. I think you're a failure. That happens often enough. We begin to think of ourselves that way. On the other hand, if we spend time with people who, when we look in their eyes, they say, I think you're pretty darn smart. You understand. You're successful. We begin to internalize that too. So you can control how you feel about yourself by the people you spend time with. There's somebody that really makes you feel bad about yourself. I would limit as much as possible the time I spend with them. Now, mind you, I'm not here advocating divorce. Woman goes to see her doctor. She's reaching midlife. She comes back and tells her grouchy husband, you won't believe what the report I got today. My metabolism is great. My cholesterol is low. My blood pressure is just right. Terrific results. He said, well, what did he say about your 40-year-old ass? She said, honey, your name didn't even come up. So, you can pick people who make you feel good about yourself, and insofar as possible, limit interaction to people who don't help you feel good about yourself. In fact, one of the tests of a relationship is this: when you leave that person, do you feel better about yourself or worse? By the way, that's one reason I gave up golf. I realize I'm spending a lot of time and money and energy, and when I come back, I feel worse about myself than when I left, because it is ridiculous. Another thing is to find joy in little things. How can you live in Goshen? Goshen, said my friend from afar, this miserable country town where people talk little things all year, plant their cabbage by the moon. Said I do not live in Goshen. I work here, sleep here, eat here. I live in Greece, where Plato taught, Phidias carved, and Epictetus taught. I live in Rome, where Michelangelo wrought in color, mass, and form, where Dante penned the immortal song. Think not my life is little because you see this puny place. I have my books. I have my dreams. 1,000 souls have wrought for me enchantment that transcends both time and place. So, I live in paradise, not here. That's a way to achieve balance, isn't it? And then, there's another way to achieve balance, and that is to learn how to leverage your time. Does everyone have the handouts? There's supposed to be 3 at your table. And I'm going to tell you how you can get one of these, which is not there. It's called My Favorite Time Tactics. If you will get out your smartphone, some of you already have it out and you've been using it, haven't you? Go to your smartphone and send me an email. I'm going to give you an address for your smartphone. It is Abe, like Abe Lincoln, Abe, A-B-E, at mindspring.com. And type on the subject line, Abe at mindspring.com. Type on the subject line, send me time savers. And we'll send those to you. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take about 4 or 5 of these and comment on them, but you're already going to have the list in your mailbox. And then there's another, actually, let me just talk about the handouts that you have there. One of the handouts is a list of some of the famous people I've interviewed. Do you have that one there? All right, in just a few moments after I give you some time savers, we're going to do a little, I think it'll be fun. Hope it will be for you. I'm going to give you a chance to stand up and pick a name, and I'll tell you a lesson I learned from that person. So we're going to do that in just a bit. The second handout that I have there is a feedback form. And there are 2 things that I'd love for you to put on that. And if you take the time to fill it out and put it here on this table at the end, we'll have a drawing afterwards and pick 1 or 2, and we'll give you either a book or a DVD randomly from the forms that are turned in there. I'd love for you to tell what you like best about this program, and two, what you would like to have heard more about. And then if your organization is having an event and you would like to have Abraham Lincoln come and speak to that event, or his humble assistant, write that down and we'll be happy to talk with you about how we might be able to make that work. The third handout that we have there is about our Platinum program. And got a deal for you today. If you will look at that list, those are some of the best sellers that we've ever had. It includes Time Tactics, which, by the way, has now gone to 40th printing. There is in that Platinum package a training film that you could use for your organization in teaching people how to communicate more effectively. There are a number of DVDs and books in it, and by the way, if you don't listen to DVDs or CDs anymore, contact us. We've got streaming versions, so we'll send you the link. You can stream. Now, the internet price of that Platinum is $495, but what it includes, and I can do this here in Atlanta really well, I throw in 1 hour of consulting. So you get that with the package. And that can be for you or someone in your organization, or maybe even a young person or whatever. And here's where I'm going to make it really attractive for you. Today for Ireland, knock off $150 just today. So it'd be $349 for the Platinum package. And they will be over here. Now, a couple reasons I want you to seriously consider doing. One, I guarantee you, if you do what's in that package, and you do it seriously for 6 months, you will leverage your time, you'll find more time, and you'll find more balance. Is Mike McCrary
right here?
Mike, there you are.
Yes.
I want you to give a testimony. Would you do this?
Yes.
You told me, and I didn't even realize that it happened. You told me I said something at a presentation I did years ago that had an impact on your life. Would you mind sharing that with the group? We haven't seen each other in person for a long time, man. So good to see you, Mike. By the way, his company manages 2 of my investment properties too. So you're going to say something nice, aren't you?
Well, Dr. Griessman, you were still coming in. I've already said that.
Oh, you
so
did.
I
I'm sorry.
didn't repeat it for the group, but I'll
You
repeat
can say it again.
but I will repeat it for you. I'll repeat what I said for you.
Yeah.
And it was very short and sweet. I talked about your definition of and formula for good luck and how that changed my life. Recognizing that when perspiration and preparation meets opportunity is the definition of good luck. And that's what really changed my business, changed my focus, changed how I looked at things, and really just was a complete mind shift for me. So sometimes it's the simplest of concepts that will have the greatest effect on folks, and that was one.
Thank you very much, Michael, and I appreciate your doing it. We're going to have the chance to chat, hopefully, after.
Yes.
I wish I could take credit for inventing that saying. Sort of like Abraham Lincoln, who said that he was not a manufacturer of quotes, he was a retailer. Retailer of jokes. Also, I have made a living doing something I'll tell about. I'll just tell this little story to set it up. It was homecoming at Mount Zion Baptist Church up in the mountains of North Georgia. Everybody who'd ever lived in the neighborhood had come back for homecoming. And women bringing baskets full of deviled eggs and banana pudding, everything that could possibly be made from Jell-O. They'd invited a young man who had once lived in the neighborhood to come back and preach the morning sermon. He did the best he could. When he finished, a strange-looking man walked up to him, looked him straight in the eye, and said, "That was one boring sermon." Walked away. Came back a few minutes. "I didn't think it'd ever end." Walked away. Returned. Looked at the young preacher. Said, "You know, we've had a lot of pretty terrible preachers, speakers at this church. You're the worst." Pastor didn't see the young man is visibly perturbed. Comes to him, puts his hand on his shoulder, says, "Don't pay any attention to him. He's a little bit feeble-minded, can't think for himself, just goes around repeating what everybody else is saying." And that's what I do. I made a career of going around repeating what other people have told me. By the way, you're going to have to help me out a little bit. Will you hold up, say, like 5 fingers when I've got 5 minutes to finish? Okay. Thank you very much. All right, let me just work off of this list. One of the favorite time tactics is don't trust your memory, trust your plan. Now, I have studied, used virtually every time management technique out there, from very sophisticated, expensive day timers and organizers, electronic organizers. I've used calendars, and I found that all of them have strengths. All of them will work. And so what I have eventually come to use is my iPhone. And here's how I use my iPhone. I go to my calendar. And if you're using an Android or another smartphone, I'm sure that you'll be able to extrapolate from what I'm saying. I will go to my calendar, and anything I think about doing, I put it down, type it into my calendar. Doesn't mean I'll necessarily do it, but at least at this moment I think I ought to. I don't trust my memory for anything. And here's how that reduces stress. My subconscious is never saying to me, "Don't forget." And my subconscious is never saying you're going to be embarrassed if something falls through the cracks, because I've written everything down in my calendar, and I look at it the night before, and I look at it the first thing the next morning. Okay? So that means that simple, just having a plan and using it can reduce stress in your life. Because you say, everything that I ought to do is right there. And I'm going to be looking at it and thinking about it. Now, here's how you can expand on that. Let's say that one of those items that you put in to do, maybe it's to make a phone call to some strategic person. So call Mike McCrary. Okay, that's and you've got it down for tomorrow. And so what I then do is I will go to my notes section, and I will create the bullet points about what I'm going to talk to you about. And also, and I'll get to this in a moment, I believe in power phrases, in using them, thinking of how to say things succinctly. And so I might write down how I'm going to say something in my notes section. Now that does something terribly important by being able to go over to your notes section. I learned this from J.B. Fuqua. J.B. Fuqua said, I think they ought to teach how to use the telephone in business school. The business school, incidentally, at Duke University is named after him. And I thought, well, you know, you can say everything you need to know about using telephone in about 5 minutes. And so in a follow-up